We don't serve your kind at the counter, boy. There's a window out back.
The black man in the worn flannel didn't move. The white shift manager was already smiling, the kind of smile a small man puts on when he thinks he's caught a bigger one. 3 white customers near booth 6 watched without watching. A line cook in the back let out one short laugh. Nobody at the counter offered the man a stool. He sat down anyway. He ordered breakfast.
2 country sausage biscuits, fresh, side of gravy.
The manager's smile thinned. The plate came out heavy. Steam rose. He took one bite, one chew. A pale larva moved on his napkin. His elbow hit a tray. A cloud of flour rose, settled, and his face, hairline to jaw, both sides, even his eyelashes, went completely white. He had been their boss for 16 months. Nobody knew yet. The Magnolia Morning Bakehouse on the east side of Birmingham opened its doors at 6 every morning, and at 6:28 on a Wednesday in late August, a weathered red pickup truck pulled into the lot. The man who stepped out was 48 years old, flannel shirt, jeans softened at the knees, work boots that had seen real work, a ball cap pulled low. He could have been a contractor stopping in before a job. He could have been somebody's granddaddy on his way to fish the Cahaba. He was neither. He was Otis Lawrence, and he had owned the company that owned this building for 16 months. Nobody inside was going to know that for another 2 hours. He walked in alone, no assistance, no phone in his hand, no laptop bag. The bell above the door rang once and the smell hit him. Biscuits coming out of the oven, golden tops dusted heavy with flour, the smell of his grandfather's kitchen in 1968. And underneath that smell, faint, almost hidden under cinnamon and pepper, something sour. Something wet. Something that did not belong in a bakery at 6 in the morning. He took booth 7. The booth had a clear sight line to the kitchen pass-through. He ordered coffee. Just coffee. The shift manager was a white man in his late 30s named Donnie Pike. Donnie Pike came over to the booth smiling and said, "You sure I can't tempt you with a biscuit, partner? They just came out." "Just enjoying the coffee," Otis said. "Thank you, sir." Donnie went back behind the counter. He glanced at booth 7. 12 minutes later, he glanced at booth 7 again. 8 minutes after that, a third time. The white retiree in booth 6 had already been refilled twice and not looked at once. Otis filed that. At the prep station behind the kitchen pass-through, a black woman in her late 40s named Loretta Hayes was breaking down a case of sausage. Loretta had worked in this building for 11 years. She had also, for the last 4 months, been quietly photographing the inside of the back storage cooler with her cell phone. 6 photographs. Dates burned into the corners. April through August. She kept the phone in her apron pocket. She kept a small brass key on a yellow ribbon in her shoe. Loretta looked up once and saw the man at booth 7. He was watching the kitchen pass-through. Not the menu, not the door. The pass-through. She set down the sausage and turned to a coworker. "Booth 7, she said low. "Watch him. He ain't here for breakfast." The coworker, a 17-year-old line cook named Junie Mosley, glanced over and shrugged. Junie was biracial, quiet, and had been carrying 6 weeks of voice memos in the depths of her phone. Recordings of Donnie Pike's morning huddles, where he told the kitchen what to do about the smell coming out of the back. Junie had not sent the recordings to anyone. Rent was due on the 1st. A line cook named Wallace slid another full sheet tray of biscuits onto the cooling rack 3 feet behind the front counter. The rack held 24 biscuits. The flour dusted on top was so heavy that a few specks rose into the air every time the swing door from the kitchen opened. A wall thermometer near the cooler read 41 degrees. Someone had taped over the dial and pushed the slider up. A wall calendar above the time clock had a red line drawn through every Tuesday since April. A new hire was getting the orientation tour. The trainer, an older woman, said cheerfully, "And that back door right there is dry storage. Don't go in there. Don't even ask. That's a Mr. Halloran rule." The new hire said, "Who's Mr. Halloran?" The trainer said, "Mr. Halloran is the man who decides if you keep your hours." Otis Lawrence, in booth 7, holding his coffee with both hands, did not turn his head, but he heard. Loretta passed Junie at the prep station and said quietly, "Don't go near the back cooler. Just don't." Junie nodded the way a girl nods at a thing she already knew. The brass padlock on the storage door caught the low fluorescent light. It looked old. It looked like it belonged to somebody who didn't trust the people they paid. At the counter, Donnie Pike laughed at his own joke and watched booth 7 a fourth time. At 7:15, the bell above the front door rang, and a young black woman walked in with a 3-year-old on her hip. The little girl was small for her age. Soft cornrows, pink leggings. She had her arms around her mother's neck and her face buried in her mother's collar like she was trying to disappear into it. The mother's name was Sherelle Whitman. She had been in this diner exactly one time before, 8 days earlier. She had ordered a country sausage biscuit for her daughter to share. 2 days after that, her daughter had been admitted to Children's of Alabama with a fever of 103 and a stomach that would not hold anything down for 72 hours. Sherelle Whitman walked past Otis Lawrence's booth. She did not see him. She walked to the front counter and asked for the manager. Donnie Pike came out smiling. Then he saw who was asking. The smile did something small and ugly at the corners. "Help you, ma'am?" Sherelle pulled a folded receipt from her purse. Her hand was steady. Her voice was not loud, but it was not quiet either. "I was here last Tuesday. My daughter ate one of your biscuits. She was in the hospital from Thursday to Sunday. I'd like to know what was in the food I bought from you." Donnie did not sit down. He did not write anything. He did not call to the kitchen. He listened for 40 seconds with the patience of a man checking a clock. Then he reached behind the counter and produced a little square of paper. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm sure your daughter's fine now. We appreciate your understanding. Here's a $5 voucher for your trouble, good for 30 days. Sherelle stared at the voucher. "My daughter spent 3 days on an IV. "Ma'am." 2 booths over, an older black woman set down her coffee. She was a stranger to Sherelle. She leaned over the booth divider and said clearly, loud enough for the front of the room to hear, "Honey, make him write it down. Make him sign it." Donnie's smile thinned. "Ma'am, this is becoming a disturbance. I'm going to have to ask you to take that voucher and step outside. We've got a rush starting. My daughter is 3 years old." "Ma'am, if you don't lower your voice, I'm going to call the police." The room got quiet. The kind of quiet a southern dining room gets when a white man says the police to a black woman holding a child. Loretta Hayes, behind the prep window, set down the knife she was holding. Wallace, at the line, stopped moving entirely. Even Junie, 17 years old, looked up. In booth 7, Otis Lawrence watched Sherelle Whitman's hand close around the $5 voucher. He watched her shoulders go in. He watched her turn, daughter still on her hip, and walk back toward the front door past a wall of customers who had decided not to look up from their plates. The little girl in pink leggings was still staring at her mother's collar. Sherelle Whitman walked past booth 7. Otis Lawrence said nothing. He nodded at her once. Slow. Sherelle Whitman, who had just been threatened with the police in a place where she had been a paying customer, looked at this stranger in flannel, this black man in a borrowed-looking ball cap sitting alone at a booth, and nodded back. One small recognition. 2 people the room had just decided didn't matter. Then she walked out. The bell above the door rang once. The front of the diner went back to chewing. Otis Lawrence picked up his coffee. His hand was steady, but it did not bring the cup to his mouth right away. It hovered. He set the cup down again. From the next stool, Loretta Hayes, passing through the dining room with a fresh pot, said, low, almost to herself, but inside earshot of his booth, "You know, last week a white man in a ball cap complained the coffee was cold. Mr. Halloran himself called him personally, comped his whole month." She kept walking. Otis Lawrence sat at booth 7 and listened to the bell on the front door not ring again. 3 customer complaints had been deleted from the company portal in the last 6 weeks, all 3 from women